Hey guys, Mr. 3D Hero here. In today's video from the Loadout series, I'm going to be focusing on my own version of Solid Snake from the Metal Gear Solid series. I'm going to be trying to implement him into TitanFall 2 with his own specific loadout and class in many ways as if he was, a futuristic soldier. Even though he kind of is in many ways, but this is going to be my kind of take on the character. I'm going to expand on it a bit more. So for your own pleasure, this is going to be something quite painful but also quite fun for me and many of you. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. So Solid Snake, or in general just Metal Gear Solid, is one of those games that is highly respected by the gaming industry. It's one of those games that always has something different, it's always something new, and it's always something quite wacky, but it always has a serious tone to it, something that many players can learn from. And it's because of its global release and its global fan base, it's one of those games that is highly recommended by a lot of gamers. Now, if you've never played it, I always recommend that you go off and play Metal Gear Solid games from first till last. But if you're not the type of person that don't like it, that's completely fine. The game is not designed for everyone because the plot is kind of confusing at first. But if you go into some of the forums available, I believe many people will be able to help you with understanding and getting you up to date with currently what's happening in the world and generally what this all means. So I'm going to be trying my own take on Metal Gear Solid. I'm going to be adding in Solid Snake into TitanFall 2. I'm going to be using a specific loadout that is kind of similar to what he would wear, but in many ways I couldn't be 100% in this loadout. This is more something that is for your own imagination to take. So take it how it is. You can always change it to something else to fit the bill, but this is how I wanted to go with, and it's kind of worked out in my favour. So let's go into the loadout. The class we're going to be using now is the Holopilot. Now Holopilot is kind of similar to what a futuristic super soldier would be using in Metal Gear Solid. Now, if we want a great example, we could look at the Frog unit from Metal Gear Solid 4. Now, although they are an all-female unit, their armor kind of looks similar to some of the TitanFall 2 pilot's uniform, and kind of in many ways, I thought, yeah, maybe I can add it in. Now, if you don't want to go with the Holopilot because of the way it looks design-wise, you can always go with Grapple. Now, Grapple is probably the best when it comes down to looking like a basic stealth suit. It's quite slim. It doesn't have a lot of things added onto it, so no useless, add-ons. It's quite reminiscent to the sneaking suit in a quite similar way. The only thing I would say that looks quite unappealing is the helmet, but I'm guessing you can look away from that. And if you add a all black camo to it, or say an all blue navy camo to it, you'll be probably one step closer to looking kind of like the old Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid 4 or Metal Gear Solid 3. But in many ways, I went with the Holopilot because of the futuristic look on it, and plus it allows you to, in many ways, send out decoys. This will basically allow you to sneak around on the map much easier because people will go into an area they think that you are in, and you can basically bait them in, and then you can just pretty much execute them there and then. Your primary now is going to be the SMR, but now the primary weapon, your SMR, isn't really going to be used whatsoever. You're only going to use your SMR for a last resort type situation. In many ways, you're going to be using this if your main secondary weapon runs out. Your main secondary weapon is going to be your primary weapon in this case, since Solid Snake is quite known for using a pistol to assassinate its targets at most. But in many cases, if things get too heated, then yes, you can always go to the SMR. And the SMR is quite dangerous, as I believe it's a 2 or 3 shot to the body for any pilot. And against Titans, it completely shreds them. So take as you wish. If you don't want to use the SMR, you can always use the R201 or whatever similar assault rifle is quite similar to the Metal Gear Solid weapons. Now the secondary we're going to be using is the P2016, and our attachments we're going to be using silencer and extended mag. Now in many ways it's going to kind of resemble the pistol that Solid Snake uses in Metal Gear Solid. It's going to be quite lethal, quite fast. It's going to allow us to take out people quickly as possible without alerting others on the map. And it's also going to allow us to basically sneak around quite easily without, being noticed by everyone. So in many cases, with the way the weapon it works, because it's only good in medium and close range situations, it basically means that you need to kind of plan out your attacks when using this weapon, because you have to try to get the drop onto people when using this weapon. This weapon is more designed for, taking out in the last, let's say if you're in a heated fight, you take this weapon out if you're in a situation where you need to reload your main primary. In this case, in the Solid Snake, you don't want to be in that type of situation. In this case, you want to get the drop onto people by any means necessary. because the moment someone uses their main primary on you, your chances of you surviving is going to be quite reduced. Now, the boost we're going to be using is kind of up to you. There's two types of boost you can use. You can either use Amped. Amp will basically allow us to increase our damage for our secondary, and this will basically make it so that killing and finishing off opponents as quickly as possible will be much easier compared to if you don't have it amped, because when you have a silencer added onto the P2016, it reduces your damage and it reduces your damage from range. So in many ways it kind of puts you out into a very difficult spot. But if you use the amp now, what it does is it takes the silencer off the weapon for some odd reason, and then it basically makes your weapon from a, let's say maybe a 4 or 3 shot into a 2 to even a 3 shot. So in many ways it will really help you. But like I said, because it amps your weapon and it takes the silencer off your weapon, basically means that you'll be more spotted on the maps. So in that situation there, you kind of want to debate, you kind of want to think through how you want to go ahead with it. Or your second choice is to use map hack. Now map hack could be kind of like your overall UOV of the map. It'll basically allow you to know what enemies are, it'll basically allow you to support your teammates as well, but in many ways it'll allow you to also be more precautious with where you go and how you tread. So in many ways you'll know where enemies are, how to avoid them, or how to fight them. But it's up to you how you want to pick which one you want. Personally for me, I would use amped weapon. Ordnance now is going to be a standard frag grenade, good for clearing out areas with congested enemies, and good for basically being used as a decoy. Our pilot kit is going to be fast regeneration and low profile. We're not going to be using any Titans in this case because I don't really remember Solid Snake going around and using a Titan in the game. Although now that I mention it, he did use Metal Gear Ray and Metal Gear Rex in that one occasion, but we could probably forget that in this type of situation. Now, when it comes on to gameplay wise, you really have to think about how you're going to attack or how you're going to approach many enemies. Because your main primary weapon is going to be the P2016, you're not going to be able to win all your fights one-on-one or even face-to-face. You need to kind of plan out how you want to attack. Ideally, all your teammates are going to be running about, double jumping, going onto roofs, you know, trying to flank and all this and that. So ideally, they'll be kind of taking on all the action and all the fire. What you want to do now is kind of plan out the area. You want to use your main primary weapon as the way it's designed. Silence, but be quick and efficient with it. You want to go into areas that you think enemies will be located, but you also want to do it in a secretive way, in a way that the enemies don't even know you're there. Use your holopilot to basically lure them in. Now your holopilot could be, you know, kind of similar to the decoys that I've noticed in Metal Gear Solid. So use your decoys as your way of attracting the enemy pilots. This way they'll give away their location if they see it, and in many ways it will then allow you to find a different route to go around a flank. Or if not, you can go in for the kill, up to you. Now your frag grenade ideally is good for clearing out big areas. Depending on the map, sometimes it plays well in your favour, other times it's not. If you really want to put your frag grenades to good use, throw your frag grenade into an area that you think enemies may be located, or you think enemy may be camping or holding up in. Throw it in there and use it as a decoy as well. Now by acting and using it as a decoy, this in many ways will alert the enemy players to be prepared. They may think that they're being attacked at the front, and that will show up on their minimap that something's going on. So in many ways they'll either go off and check the area, or they'll stay back and hunt up in the area to stay as one big group. And this could probably play out in your favour, because if this is the case, you can then come in from the back, secretive, get in up close, execute as many players as you can with the mini button, and then use your silence extended mag P2016 to finish off all the rest. And also make sure that when you use the P2016 that you aim for the head, as you don't want your opponents to react quick enough. Now I say this as in, if you aim for the body it's all fine and dandy, but in close range situations aim for the head drops it much quicker, and this basically allows you to move in and move out of the area as quickly as possible. And this also allows your teammates to quickly come in and allows you a getaway route. Because if you don't have a getaway route when you're using this type of loadout, you kind of screwed yourself over. Ideally, the main way you want to play this is that you don't want to be in the area for too long. You just want to be in there, take them all out, and then leave as quickly as possible. Now, do remember that if you are using amped weapon as a boost, it does take your silencer off, and this does put you into a situation where if you do fire your weapon, you show up on the minimap. Now, this will be quite difficult for you, depending on how you play this out. You can play aggressive, or you can play quite sneakative still. But like I said, because you don't have silencer anymore, people will know where you are, and if people know where you are, the chances of you surviving is also quite reduced. So ideally, only go in and use your amped weapon if you're with teammates. Hopefully your teammates will be able to back you up and either finish the opponent off if they kill you, or in many ways allow you to push in, take out as many as possible until you eventually get killed. But if it will be your map hack will probably act as a way as if you're interrogating the enemy. It'll allow you to show up where all the enemies are on the map. It'll allow your teammates to come in and do what they do best, cause as much havoc as possible. This will basically allow you an entry into getting into the area, causing as little to no damage, but taking out the enemy so that they don't know. Even if this means that you have to sneak into the spawn area, by all means do what you can. But it's quite effective depending on how you will play this out. I do find the loadout quite fun. The P2016 isn't the type of weapon that I would use heavily because I don't really enjoy the sight on the main weapon. But for those that enjoy certain challenges, and for those that want to use something different and new, this is the type of loadout that you want to focus on. And also, do remember that you don't have to always use your secondary as your main primary. Do remember that you do have the SMR to back you up. And although the SMR is quite horrendous when it comes down to hitting people, it's quite lethal depending on the situation. And it also can save your life. It can also take people out from longer distances in some situations. But do remember that you don't have to always rely on your secondary. Do remember you do have a primary, and do remember to take your primary out, and in case of situations where you're being overrun, or you're in a situation where both of you are reloading, or you're in a situation where you just want to use SMR just as a normal assault rifle because you don't want to be sneakative anymore, you want to be aggressive. And ideally, if you do go with that, make sure that you go with the amped weapon, as it makes it even more lethal, and even more broken, that, you know, Respawn probably won't even look into. But that is the end of the video. I do hope you enjoyed it, as I will be doing more like these in the nearby future. This is just one of the many loadouts that they're going to be quite secretive, but also quite fun for those that want to have something new and challenging to do nearly every day. So thank you all for watching. Do leave a like, or leave a dislike, and I do hope to see you all again soon.